I think the Sunday night performance that Kevin Durant put up in Oklahoma City was his best as a Phoenix Sun. I'll tell you why and how it happened on today's episode of Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start your Monday, or to start your Tuesday. A game day against San Antonio, game day coming on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. So hit follow or subscribe wherever you're finding us. Get a recap of each of those games in your feed, as well as extra content throughout the week, every Monday through Friday in your feed. Stay locked on to your favorite team. You can also follow along at Locked On PHX Suns to get caught up on Twitter, get new show notifications there, and interact with me and the community. Today's show, guys, is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. More from them later on. But we have a Durant special today. We have a lot of Durant topics and breakdowns to dive into, because this guy is special. This guy is changing this team quickly, and obviously when I say Kevin Durant is special, I sound ridiculous, but what I mean even more than just his talent is how quickly it's clicking and how quickly they're able to add these wrinkles to this team, and especially on offense, but really on both sides of the ball. This was game 6 of his time in Phoenix, and nevertheless, he showed us new stuff. He was excellent, and they were able to win a close game. Shouldn't have been as close as it was, but they were able to win a tight game with an Oklahoma City team that has given them trouble over and over the past month, and that is young and relentless and wasn't going to go down quietly. The Suns won it anyway. So we have 3 different aspects of Durant's best game as a Sun, which again, I think this was to get to. I'm going to start with how Oklahoma City guarded him and guarded Devin Booker, because it was pretty interesting, and I think it got the most attention out of anything, so that's why I want to start with it. It's probably what stayed in your head from this game, primarily the way that the Thunder doubled Devin Booker. They did it from the literal opening tip of the game, when Booker got the ball, and I believe Shea and Dort both just swarmed him before he even crossed half court in the first possession of the game after the opening tip. First of all, I doubt we see this again anytime soon, because it didn't exactly work. In case the final results didn't illustrate that enough, the Thunder lost the game, right? And Durant burned them. It just, to me, like, as a basic ground rule with this stuff, if your game plan defensively involves sending extra attention toward somebody who's not the best player on the team, it's probably not going to work. And I understand, like the Suns have used Booker to much success. Booker has scored really well against the Thunder. I get it. We've seen this strategy a million times. But the difference this time, once again, for anyone who missed it, and it sounds like, not to be too obnoxious, but it kind of seems like the Thunder missed this, is that Kevin Durant is on this team now. And so I thought it just, to me, really, like, at the end of the day, it's kind of one and the same. The fact that we've seen this before and the fact that it didn't work go hand in hand. Because, yes, we've seen it before, which obviously means that Book has seen this before. And it just doesn't stop him in the way that it used to. Like, you even think back to November, right? Chris Paul's not healthy. Cam Payne's playing fine, pretty well, but not Chris Paul level, right? And guys like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson was out at that point too, DeAndre Ayton, inconsistent, not really, reliable number 2s. And Booker's getting this blitzing, doubling stuff thrown at him every night. The Suns were actually very good that month. Booker looked like an MVP candidate. The team got out to a better than expected start. To me, that moment was when I realized this wasn't going to be the same Booker And I think, again, as I've said a million times now on this show, this is the best season we've ever seen from him. It just doesn't work anymore to throw junk defenses, as he's called them, or just these let's sell out to stop Booker stuff. It just doesn't work. He's going to make the right decision. And I thought last night against Oklahoma City, him and Chris, they did this to Chris Paul a little bit as well at times. I thought both of those guys were very quick and decisive with getting off of the ball, just passing it to whoever was open. Guys were making themselves available for that pass pretty well. And then guys like Okogie and Craig, who were the ones doing that and catching it, I thought they made just the right play. I mean, you don't have to exactly outsmart anybody once you catch the ball in that spot, because the defense is just sold out to stop the guy who passed it to you. That means the floor is open. That means somebody's usually going to be open 1 or 2 passes away from you. And I thought those secondary role players did a good job of finding that. You look up at the end of the night, and Booker and Chris Paul finished the night with 18 assists and 8 turnovers. Yes, Booker had 5 turnovers in this game. Okay. I guess, mission accomplished by the Thunder. There were a couple of times where, he's going to end up with a turnover. He's going to end up with a pass that doesn't get to the right spot. But the Suns as a team posted a 130 offensive rating, which I believe, according to Cleaning the Glass when I looked, was in the 92nd percentile of all NBA offensive performances this season. It didn't work. That's not success. You lost. The opposing offense scored a ton anyway. And then we get to Kevin Durant, which is where I want to get next, and they couldn't stop him. And so it just feels weird to choose Booker, to choose selling out on Booker as your strategy when Durant is just better and harder to guard, and you're leaving him to attack one-on-one situations. So with KD, they started the game with a bunch of extended post ISOs, the same stuff we saw in those first 3 games against Dallas, Charlotte, and Chicago back before he sprained the ankle. It was a lot of attacking Jalen Williams, who just wasn't able to really do much to stop Durant at all. The pace picked up after that. Kevin Durant started to work more as a ball handler, taking the ball up the court, attacking off the drive, etc. Did fine. I don't feel like he scored a ton out of that, but, pace, ball movement started to feel a little more normal. The ISOs and elbow stuff is going to work for him, but it's going to also get the Suns kind of out of their comfort zone a little bit, so they don't want to do that for too long. And then the second half, and we'll get into this more in the next segment, the pin downs with Ayton. Just coming off of these down screens at the elbow over and over and over. Actually, it reminded me a little bit of how Igor Kokoshkov used to use TJ Warren, which, if you thought that reference was coming, I guess there's your bingo card. I don't think many of you did, but it's funny to compare that. It is sort of the best Suns comparison that I have, but either way, it just was unstoppable. Dort gets put on Durant in the second half. I thought he was a little better against the post-ups and ISO stuff, but just no one stopped Durant in this game. I believe he was 13 of 21 from the field. So, no one stopped him. And then at the end of the game, this has gotten a lot of attention online on Monday as well. You end up with the situation, and I think this was game plan. I'm not going to put it on Dort for messing up. I think this is what he was supposed to do. He left Kevin Durant to help on a drive by Booker, by Paul, whatever it was, at the basket. Those guys made the right play. The ball found Kevin Durant in the corner, and you're talking about an open corner 3 for maybe the best shooter of all time. That's an L. It's an automatic L. It's not going to happen for you. And so with that all said, look, the point is, above anything else, as much as I'm criticizing the Thunder right now, the point is there's not an easy choice. And that's what we knew from the minute that the Woj bomb came down on Thursday morning of the trade deadline, and we knew Durant was coming. There's just no poison that's good, right? That's why they call it pick your poison. And so I think a few things coming off of this. In the half court, when the Suns are running their pick and roll stuff, I actually do think that trying to blitz or double Chris Paul and Devin Booker is the right move. I don't think doing it full court like the Suns did, like the Thunder did. I don't think sticking to it constantly every possession that way is smart, because they're going to solve that. But I think in general, if you're asking me what the best thing to do is, that's probably still right. And I think, because again, even if the ball finds Durant for a contested 3, let's say, that's better than letting the Suns run their bread and butter stuff. I think when KD is in that ISO mode on the elbow, on the post, whatever, I would double him on his first dribble. And the Thunder were doing that at times, but he just kept his dribble and sort of it didn't bother him. I think if you have the right personnel, and look, Oklahoma City's defensive personnel is far from perfect. It's young. There's not a lot of size right now, all that stuff. So, again, giving them a little bit of slack here, but that's probably the best thing. Double him when he makes his first dribble. If he's just going to turn around and shoot, that's unguardable. We know he can catch without even dribbling it, turn around, the fall away jumper can be money. There's no defensive thing that anyone is going to say, let alone a dummy like me who's never coached or played in the NBA, right? So, but if he is going to bounce the ball and take his time, I think you double him on that first dribble. There's no great option. You live with the result, but I think blowing up the first plan of action against these Suns is probably always going to be the best thing. Don't let them have what they're trying to get. Make them at least work for it. I think the bottom line is, as we saw at various points in this game, and part of why I thought this was such an impressive one, the defense was there a lot of the time. Outside of those late game things where Dort was helping off, the defense was there against Durant. He just solved it. He just shot over the top of it. The reason that there's no good option against this Suns offense is they have the ace in the hole of a Durant ISO. There's nothing you can ever do about that. He will make the shot. It's just, is he going to make it or is he going to miss it? You're not going to affect it for the most part. And so that's just that's the trouble. That's why this team is so potent and probably the favorite, if not one of the favorites, to win a championship. As we're seeing, they're going to be hard to stop. Let's talk about Kevin Durant and DeAndre Ayton. Those guys are involved in more action than I feel like Ayton has ever been involved with of any off-ball scorer that this team has ever brought in. McHale, Cam, Booker, no matter what, Ayton is finding this synchronicity with Ayton that I think is really cool. There's a big word for you. We'll dive into it next. First, today's show, guys, brought to you by Game Time. We've all been trying to buy tickets. I remember more than anything else the most stressful ticket buying experience of my life. I am coincidentally in Los Angeles for one sports game trip with an ASU bus trip to go watch ASU UCLA at one point. Then all of a sudden, I'm scheduled to be coming back for a Disneyland trip with my wife a little while later, and the Dodgers clinch a playoff spot. The Mets clinch a playoff spot near the end of the NBA regular season, or the MLB regular season, and all of a sudden, I'm trying to buy tickets sitting on a curb outside of the Rose Bowl for another game in LA like 2 weeks later to see Dodgers Mets. I end up doing it. I paid way too much. Game Time would have helped me. We love Game Time here on the Locked On Podcast Network. They have flash deals and last-minute tickets. It's easy to find and buy them. It's easy to search. You get seat views, which is clutch. This thing, there's websites out there that suck, but they have this uploaded. It's never, ever, I've never seen a place that has it in the app, in the website where you're buying the tickets. So you know, okay, I'm buying this. Is this a good value? Not just based on the pricing or whatever my memory might be. It's like, okay, here's what my view will be, and I can know it right away. Lowest price guarantees, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, all of it's on the Game Time app. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Okay, we talked about Booker and Durant and why it is such a pick-your-poison problem for NBA defenses right now, trying to guard the Suns. Let's talk about Durant and Ayton on both sides of the floor, not just on offense. Again, the best game we've seen by Durant in a Suns uniform. Let me tell you why. With Ayton, you're seeing the elbow screen connection between Durant and Ayton becoming a Suns staple already. And this is what I'm talking about with my little joke of how special Durant is, as if you didn't already know that. It's how quickly they're finding this stuff, and probably why, James Jones and Matt Ishbia and Ryan Resch and all those people in that front office felt so comfortable pulling the trigger on this grand experiment with so little time and runway to get it figured out, is because this guy is so plug and play that it's ridiculous. And if you don't remember what I'm talking about, it's on almost every Durant shot from the third quarter especially. Just go find the YouTube highlights and you'll see it. It is just They basically it's a snug screen, sort of. Usually they use that when it's like a post-up already that becomes a pick and roll, but they're just standing next to each other at the elbow at the corner of the free throw line, and Ayton is setting a screen, and Durant is cutting usually toward the ball handler who's on the wing. It's usually coming right to left, and the ball handler is either at the top of the key or on the left wing. And, there's really no way to defend that. If the screen is solid from Ayton, KD barely needs any space to let it fly. In most cases, it's Chris Paul delivering a laser pass right to Durant as he comes open. And what are you supposed to do? You can't really get through that screen because there's just not enough space. You're talking about, a few feet of room before Durant is catching the pass, and then he's going up immediately with it. It's not like an off-ball screen on, somebody flying from the corner toward the top of the arc where you can go under that screen, you can try to shoot it, shoot the gap that way. You can try to get over it and recover and count on, okay, yeah, he might be open for a split second, but the ball's not going to get there before I get there because I'm Drew Holiday or I'm Mikal Bridges. I'm going to beat it. Well, no, if you're talking about such little time and such little space, it's impossible. And so it creates openings for Durant to get to his mid-range, his comfort zone, almost without fail. It's also a big reason why Ayton got more shots last night and why he felt more involved and was more involved. I'll talk about another reason for that in a second, but I do think, the truism about screening, Eddie Johnson talks about this all the time. The screener is going to be open, usually, right? The guy who sets the screen is going to be open, especially when the guy coming off of that screen has as much gravity as Kevin Durant. Ayton sets that screen. Both guys' instinct, Ayton's man and Durant's man, is going to be to come toward Durant. We don't want him catching the ball. All right, well then what? You have Ayton suddenly in a bunch of space with a path to the basket, 15 feet away. And now you're getting those drop passes that Durant was delivering to Landale very well in the first stretch, even Biyombo at times, but especially DeAndre Ayton. It also helps, look, that Durant has been very obviously committed to finding Ayton, and I think that's been a real help, that those two are developing not only some of these pet plays that they can go to, but that Durant knows and is learning very quickly, I think, hey, we got to feed that guy if we want him to be invested, right? We don't need to get into that conversation, but I think we all know it's true. Defensively, I think this pairing, what this game showed us, I've talked a lot about defensively what this is going to allow the Suns to do, to have these two guys as the 4 and 5 in their lineup. Having Ayton be able to guard Anthony Davis with Durant as a backline defender, for instance. But this game, with how small Oklahoma City plays, this showed us that it's a weapon against small ball too, right? In past games, and we've seen the Thunder as an opponent a lot lately, for whatever reason, the scheduling silliness broke down that way, where Ayton is out on the perimeter, right? He's either guarding a pick and pop where he has to sort of end up all the way at the top of the arc. Maybe he's in the corner. He's not going to be the right type of player to recover all the way to the basket. I mean, that's asking a lot of any player unless you're Giannis or whatever, but it's not a good spot to be in. And that was it. That just created these openings. That's how Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, in large part, has had such a spectacular season, is they play 5 out, and he's such a master at getting to the free throw line, getting to his mid-range, getting into the basket, into the paint for shots at the basket, and making it work. What the Suns were able to do, because they have these two guys, is, maybe you're getting Ayton out of the way. But Durant's there in the corner. Durant is there, maybe guarding somebody that's not spacing the floor well. And he's quicker. He takes up ground more immediately. His reaction time, I think, is better. He just is a better player than Ayton. And so now he's flying in. He had 2 blocks. One of them was that chase down on Shai. So let's say 1 block. Ayton had 2 blocks against the Nuggets on Friday. They were doing some similar stuff because Jokic wasn't out there, so they had some, Zeke Naji as a, spacing 5, even. I don't think Thomas Bryant played a ton, but he's a spacing 5 for them. And Ayton was able to get some blocks. And so you just have this double-headed monster that's not going to give up as much in the paint because it's harder to pull 2 people out of a play. It's just math, right? And they know how to make the most of that. They're looking for those opportunities. Durant has already had a number of weak side help blocks since he became a Sun. And this challenge against Oklahoma City, which is a team the Suns have struggled to guard, they've allowed a lot of open threes against this team in the past. Shai has gone off. He's going to go off every night. but they were able to limit some of those other things, and they come away with a win. So defensively, that tandem is working just as well as it is offensively, and I'm super excited to see how they grow because Ayton needs to be used. He doesn't need to just be out there, coincidentally nearby. Like, you need to deploy him. You need to involve him in the game plan. And I think the Suns with Durant are able to do some more creative stuff that will say, hey, DeAndre, like, we're making the most. It's on you. Like, do this, execute, get involved, and you'll be rewarded. And Durant, just another way that I think he's chipping in and making life easier on a lot of different people. We'll talk about the last part of the show here, which is going to be just the simplicity, just the overall, the lessons versus small ball, the lessons of how, I guess, the life of being a Kevin Durant team more so than anything else. Talk about that next for today's show, guys. Brought to you as well by BetterHelp. And look, it's not exactly a coincidence that the past couple of years have led to a lot more need for this stuff. I personally, about, I guess, midway through the pandemic was like, look, I'm not going through anything deep. I haven't had loss or trauma or any severe thing. It just helps to have that support. It helps to have somebody to talk to. It helps when you're just not feeling like yourself. And so I went and sought help. My wife has done the same. Lots of people in my life have gone out, and BetterHelp is making that experience easier. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do to start out is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch at any time. I did that a ton. You start, you try somebody, maybe it doesn't work, maybe their style. People have different, practicing ways, scientific methods of doing this stuff, and maybe one of them's not for you. Maybe another one is. You can switch for no additional charge through BetterHelp. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA to save 10% on your first month. All right, so closing things out with just some lessons about the Suns' ability to match small ball in general. All right, because Brandon and I talked about this a little bit on Monday's show. I've been worried about it, I would say, since the Suns traded for Durant, and I think teams that can go small and make KD have to guard, not guard like I was talking about in the last segment as a help defender, but guard a threatening offensive player. Those are the matchups that scare me the most. Now, I had Dallas on that list to start things out. They've gone off a cliff. It sounds like they might even shut Kyrie and Luka down, which is crazy. So let's take them off. But you look at the Thunder being a little bit of a young version of that, but they will be a threat in that way before long. The Lakers have become that, although they do have Jared Vanderbilt. Separate note. The Warriors and Clippers are obviously like that. And the Nuggets can be, although they play more out of the post than anything. And so this is not so much about the Thunder as deeply as it is just how you play against small ball, and the Suns with Durant finally getting a test of doing that. A few notes. So offensively, I thought the Suns were really smart about finding Ayton as a trailer streaking to the basket when the extra attention did come toward a ball handler. Now, we talked about the doubling and blitzing on Booker and Paul. Whether it was that or just, over the normal course of a game, whoever has the ball in transition, they can generate some attention and give it up. I thought that Ayton was really smart about cutting to the basket, running the floor hard, and being fed and getting some easy dunks that way. Kind of like what we saw against the Lakers in the first round back in 2021 when Ayton just feasted a lot of that series in a lot of those same ways. The pace was where the Suns wanted it to be, and then all of a sudden, campaign's hot from three. They send a couple guys, both converge toward him, and look, lo and behold, DeAndre Ayton is there, 7 feet tall of him with a clear path to the basket, and we saw some of that against the Thunder on Sunday as well. Offensively as well, I think both Booker and Durant are pretty incredibly smart about getting to the basket, driving in an instant, at the snap of your fingers, when they see that the help defense isn't there. And look, the help defense isn't a whole heck of a lot from the Thunder at this point in time. It's Jalen Williams, the Arkansas one, who is their quote unquote center. To me, he's like a bigger Jay Crowder. Definitely not anybody's idea of a rim protector. But even when there's somebody, you're going to think twice. When there's not, I think both Booker and Durant see it immediately and they go. And that was really good to see as well. Points in the paint and rebounds are basically equal in this game. The Suns got to the line a lot by playing downhill. Kind of that same mentality of just when you see an opening, go. Push the pace, get downhill, get into the paint. Yes, OKC got more free throws because Shea is a magician, but still, I think the Suns got 28. That's a very strong number. If you told me the Suns got 28 free throw attempts consistently in the playoffs, I would have very little concerns about their offense. It really fills it out nicely. Defensively, I thought the Suns were very solid about collapsing into the paint on SGA's drives. Like Shea got his. He's always going to, as I've said multiple times now. But it didn't feel easy for him. He settled for the mid-range quite a bit. Yes, he got to the free throw line, but I didn't feel like there were a lot of plays where he just got a free path all the way to the basket for a dunk or a layup. And he can do that to teams, right? If he has the change of pace, he has the stop and go stuff. And if your rim protector is out of position or hesitates for a second, he's going to just get a layup. The Suns didn't allow a lot of those. It was, either mid-range or we're going to foul you. And that's not a bad plan against him. And a lot of that was because they were able to not just have one man guarding him, but have the collapsing of help defenders to make him have to think twice, give up his initial plan, all that stuff. OKC, as I mentioned, not as nearly as many open threes. I like to think of this is the nerdiest thing I'm going to say on this show. So look, if you got to 26 minutes, then that means you're getting this treat. There's a toy that I'm sure a lot of you have played with. It's like this spindly one. I'm doing it on YouTube that goes in and out. It's like a ball that's made up of like plastic, wiry, whatever, and it collapses in and out. It's called a Hoberman sphere, which is why it sounds so nerdy. It's a toy we've all played with. It just sounds bad when I say Hoberman sphere. It sounds like I've been in a lab coat all day. But that's what I like to think of with modern NBA defense a lot of the time is like with the driving kick, with the 5 out, it's just effort. You just have to collapse in to counter the drives or the ISOs and then recover back out to the shooters. And a lot of the time, if you just have the right personnel out there with length and athleticism and you give a damn and hustle and try, you're going to be able to contain. It's just a matter of superstar players like Luka who play that style, LeBron, whatever, they're going to get their shots anyway. You just want to make them hard, and you want to make the threes that they generate just that much more contested and cross your fingers. And in this game, Oklahoma City wasn't as hot from three. I mentioned that I thought Shea had a harder time, and that's it. When you have a high-powered offense, you're just going to have to put the right defensive combinations out there, hustle, maximize your personnel, and you're probably going to be able to have a good chance to win almost every night. That's what happened against the Mavs, right? The Suns just had enough stops in that game where their offense was able to take them home. That's going to be the recipe, whether it's small ball or not, but I think especially with how much challenge the Suns have faced against these kinds of small ball teams, it was very promising to see. Durant's best game, a very strong win by the Suns, and a 5th straight. So I think that kind of goes without saying that it was pretty meaningful. That will wrap us up. The Spurs are coming tomorrow. Sorry I didn't preview that one. I'll give you my quick thoughts here. The Suns should win. There you go. That's that. I'll be back with a recap of it. Even if it is a blowout, going to be a lot to learn as with every Durant game. So hit follow or subscribe. Get that show in your feed. Post game on Tuesday. The Nuggets game coming up Thursday, and more all throughout the week in your feed. Stay locked on to your favorite team each and every Monday through Friday. In the meantime, go make Locked On NBA your second listen. Get caught up on everything else going on around the league. That show's available on all podcast platforms as well. And I'll catch up with you guys on Tuesday night.